Big changes are coming to ChatGPT. Sam Altman just dropped a major update about the future of GPT 4.5 and GPT 5, and it looks like OpenAI is making some big moves to simplify things. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the different model choices in ChatGPT, you're not alone, and OpenAI knows it. So what exactly is changing, and how will it impact you? Let's break it down.
ChatGPT.
How many people feel smarter than GPT-4? How many of you think you're still going to be smarter than GPT-5? I don't think I'm going to be smarter than GPT-5, and I don't feel sad about it because I think it just means that...
So you can see a few hours ago, Sam Altman tweeted that this is going to be the official roadmap update for GPT 4.5 and GPT 5, and he says that he wants to do a better job of sharing the intended roadmap and a much better job at simplifying the product offerings. He said that, he wants AI to just work for you, and he realized how complicated the model and product offerings have gotten. So basically what they're talking about is the fact that if you've ever used ChatGPT before and you're someone that is using it, and you've got a lot of money invested, and by that I mean, let's say, for example, you're paying for the highest tier. ChatGPT currently is a complete mess. Now, I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean by that. So when you come into ChatGPT, it does seem pretty simple. But when you do this drop-down menu right here, you can see that, unfortunately, as someone who has a different layout than you probably do, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, GPT-4 Mini and 8, GPT-4, and 9 if you include the temporary chat. Basically, the problem with this is that this causes analysis paralysis. And what this does involve is that this involves user decisions. So for example, when someone comes to use the AI chatbot, they genuinely don't know which model is the best because you've got GPT-4 for questions, GPT 4.0, scheduled 01, 03, mini highs, 03, mini 01, pro mode. You've got basically too many choices. And one thing that they constantly say in product choices is that if you have too many choices, your product is going to fail. And in this instance, for ChatGPT, what they want to do is they actually want to simplify this entire thing here because this is far too complex for the average person to use. As someone that knows exactly what I'm going to be doing for every task, for me, this is just fine. But for the average person, this is actually a detriment and isn't actually a good thing. So they're actually going to change this in a really interesting way, which I will talk about later. And this is where they actually talk about how they hate the model picker as much as we do and want to return to magic unified intelligence. So I do think that one of the approaches that they're going to take to sort of return to this unified machine intelligence is through the Router LLM. So basically, this was, I wouldn't say a framework, but this is basically how you set up LLMs in order to basically make things a lot easier. So you would have your single system prompt, your user prompt actually, not the system prompt, your user prompt. So for example, you might put, what's the weather today? And then there's basically a router that analyzes every single prompt that is put in. So this router will look at your question that you put in, it will analyze the cost, the latency, and basically it will look at your question and think, okay, does this question need to be routed to a really difficult model? Or does this question, need to be routed to a super easy model that can answer within 2 seconds? If it is a hard question, it's going to be put towards the most intensive LLM, the one that's going to think for very long periods of time. And if it's something very simple like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, it's going to be routed to a very simple model. And then, of course, finally, you get a system response. Now, this is something that they have tested before. Maybe not OpenAI, but I do know other companies have tested something like Router LLM before, and it has gone very well, considering the fact that I think it dropped cost by around 85%. And you can read more about this at this blog post. Router LLM, an open source framework for cost-effective LLM routing. And basically, it just talks about how in their routing setup, they focus on the case where there are 2 models, a stronger, more expensive model and a weaker but cheaper model. And their aim was to minimize costs while achieving high quality between routing through 2 models. And you can see right here that they said, a top goal for us is to unify the O series models and GPT series by creating systems that can use all our tools, know when to think for a long time or not, and generally be useful for a wide range of tasks. So like I was talking about with the previous framework, Router LLM, it's quite likely that, we will have a situation on our hands where we do get a system that is basically all-in-one, and it's quite likely that we're going to get future models as an all-in-one system. So whilst, yes, there might be, parts of the system that are O3 mini and O3 high or whatever, it seems like we're basically moving towards one giant model, or an orchestrated set of LLMs that basically provide you with this unified level of intelligence. And it's quite likely that, depending on your tier, you will have access to, those levels of intelligence. So maybe if you're paying $200 a month, you get access to the model's entire brain, all the, advanced reasoning capabilities. But if you're just a free user, you can maybe query it about one or two things a day, maybe just 10 to 20 queries a day. And that is going to be how the model is probably deployed, because it's, a lot easier to do that rather than having 6 different models. And then when, different companies come out with different models, they're like, okay, this model is clearly better, but this is probably going to be a lot better for OpenAI in terms of their branding. And they also state that, in ChatGPT and, in their API, they're actually going to release GPT-5 as a system that integrates a lot of their technology, including O3. They said that they are no longer going to ship O3 as a standalone model, so it's clear that GPT-5 is probably going to absorb O3 as just part of its, architecture. And it's going to be, I guess you could say, part of that model for quite, some time. So it's like GPT-5 is probably going to be a system that comprises maybe O3, O1, different parts of different questions, which is going to be super interesting to see how that, entire system works. They also said that, we will next ship GPT-4.5, the model we called Orion internally, as our last non-chain of thought model. So what they mean by this is that the last model that they basically did the old method of training where, you basically collect a bunch of data, put all that data in the model, train it, then have the post-training, the fine-tuning, and all of those things that you have for a standard model output, like a GPT-4, a GPT-40, all of those things basically are going to go in the last model. Now, of course, for free users, they actually talk about, the free tier of ChatGPT is going to get unlimited chat access to GPT-5 at this standard intelligence setting. Note standard intelligence. We can also see that they also talk about, the fact that Plus subscribers are going to be able to run GPT-5 on GPT-5 at a higher level of intelligence. I'm guessing having the model think more and, of course, tap into those long chains of thought that provide you with deeper insights into your queries. And it says Pro subscribers will be able to run GPT-5 at an even higher level of intelligence, and these models will incorporate voice, canvas, search, deep research, and more. So I think what OpenAI are doing is basically saying, look, if you want access to our free models, you are going to get that for free. But if you want access to, voice, canvas, search, and deep research, you're going to have to probably pay the highest level, which is probably around $200 a month. So, with OpenAI shifting towards a more unified and intelligent system, ChatGPT is about to become a lot more streamlined and powerful. GPT 4.5 is just around the corner, and GPT-5 could be a game changer. But what do you think? Will this new approach make ChatGPT easier to use, or do you prefer having more control over different models?